Good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am. Okay, I think we'll get going so that let's try and finish Aristotle today. So before I proceed with what we are going to do today, I would like you to know that we will be doing a typology of governments that was suggested uh, both by Plato and Aristotle. However, what is important to know in this is that if any of you is going to be referring uh, to the uh, internet for your sources for reading things up, please be extremely careful because both about uh, Aristotle and about Plato, there is a great deal of confusion. Okay, um, uh, in the sense of the typology itself, because both of them have indicated cycles of different forms of, you can't say government. In those days there was no government, so a better word to use would be governance, because governance is an activity of you know sorry governance is an activity of administering a sorry geographical territory, whereas government would indicate uh, a, what should we say, uh, the governance would indicate a government would indicate an elaborate and formal arrangement of institutions. In the absence of those institutions, in the ancient Greek polis, Polis, it is not appropriate to use this particular term government. I'm not even sure if governance is also a very, very appropriate word, but I can definitely say that it is as such um, much better than government. Um, this is the problem with dealing with ancient Greece. Okay, and like I told you, that the whole city-state thing itself is complete rubbish. It's not something one should even consider for a nanosecond as a possible translation of what the Greek polis is or was. Um, so there is a reason why I'm doing this typology of governments that was given both by Plato and by Aristotle. I'm sorry, my voice, there's something wrong. Yeah, sorry about that. X-Men. Uh, there is a reason why we are doing the typology, because I have told you yesterday uh, that people have highlighted the differences between Aristotle and his teacher Plato, and they have tried to show these differences as mainly substantive. When I say substantive, what I mean is that they are seen as those which have something to do with the substance of their thought. And whatever differences have been shown are true differences. But in terms of the substantiveness of the differences, I have some reservations about uh, how deep are these uh, differences. That is something that we need to understand. So before moving forward with the Aristotelian scheme of things, okay, it is therefore necessary for us uh, to look at this typology of governments which have been used by both Plato and Aristotle. And like I said, you'll find all kinds of distortions, absolute distortions of these on the internet. um, well, I should not reveal this to you, but I won't reveal the exams. There are some exams not confined to Telangana. And I have some recognition uh, as being a person with some kind of expertise in political theory. So they are referred to me when somebody challenges something. And very often I find, because when you're uh, putting up a challenge, then you also have to give your source. And very often I find that these sources are based in internet, and those are uh, completely wrong. They are totally wrong. So therefore, please be very careful while reading these things off the net if you're doing it. Now, when you look at the typology, first let's do Plato. Let's not call them government again, because government is something that automatically invokes a number of institutions and a very clearly defined form of interactions between these different institutions. That's when it becomes government. Otherwise, it is not government. So please understand that this is therefore not to be taken as government. Now, if you think that it's a better word to write in the exam, I don't know, please go ahead and do it. Feel free to do that, um, because I seriously don't know who will be correcting your papers and what is their extent of knowledge. Uh, so, anyway, if you come to the typology of the uh, systems of governance, you will find that this is a circular uh, kind of uh, the circular kind of arrangement on which is made both by uh, Plato and Aristotle. But in the case of Plato and Aristotle, there is a significant difference. Yes, Akshay.
Sir, what is meant by typology, sir?
Typology is something is a type. Okay, a type is, let's say, what type of cloth is this? Cotton or silk? Okay, so that's a type. Now, sorry, there is a stereotype. A stereotype is a wrongly or not exactly understood thing. So you'll say that there is a stereotype uh, that all people from rural areas are steeped in superstition. Now, that is a stereotype because it is not substantiated, it is just there. It's a floating belief among people that those who come from rural areas are those who are more superstitious. Okay, so that's called a stereotype. Now, when you say a typology indicates, you know, a classification, a taxonomy of types. That's a typology. Taxonomy or classification of various types of anything. That will become a typology. Have I made myself?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry?
Okay, sir. I have
Uh,
understood.
yeah. So in Plato, the type, please understand one thing. If you look at the uh, ancient forms of thought, we have this one particular common thread. They all look at history as circular somehow, and they all also look at history as degenerative. Okay, for example, ancient Indian civilization, I have talked to you about this once or twice before, but I'll just repeat it very quickly once again, which is, you know, ancient Indian history is measured in yugas. Okay, so at the beginning you have the Krita Yuga. Please don't call it Satya Yuga. I keep saying this again and again because everybody calls it Satya Yuga. I don't know who started this terrible translation. I mean, terrible replacement of Krita with Satya. And Krita Yuga is the first, the second is Treta Yuga, the third is the Dwapara Yuga, and the fourth is the Kali Yuga, at the end of which the world destroys itself because of too much of adharma. Okay, so Krita Yuga is the best of all the yugas because there's only dharma. In Treta Yuga, adharma makes an appearance but can be defeated by dharma. In uh, Dwapara Yuga, adharma becomes so powerful that dharma also may have to use adharmic means to defeat adharma. And in the Kali Yuga, it's uh, it's all what do we say, adharma, and that upsets the cosmic balance, which also was there in the case of the Chinese, who use the terms yin and the yang. The yin and the yang are uh, the opposites, and they need to be in balance for the sustenance of the universe. So you'll find this in Confucius, and you'll also find it in Lao Tzu. So we also have something like that. So this is a deteriorating cycle, a degenerative cycle, and it requires to start once again once the destruction happens. So this is the same kind of logic that is being used even by the Greeks, by Plato and Aristotle. So they use this particular term in Greek. Okay, but please don't pronounce it as kaiklos. It's not kaiklos. It is the root of cycle, um, but the pronunciation of this is kuklo. Okay, kuklo. That is what it is to be pronounced as kuklo. So Plato has a kuklo of the systems of governance, and it is a degenerative cycle or a degenerative kuklo. Ah, wonderful. This is amazing. I think I have a genie of sorts in my. Anyway, so let's start with the. In Plato, what's happening? My computer, I think, is haunted. Yeah. So it all starts with monarchy in Plato. And this for him would have been, would be the best form of government. Not would have been, sorry about that. Then it degenerates. It degenerates into what he calls a democracy, which in turn degenerates into my. If you have 7, do you have change? Actually, give him 1,000 because we promised him 1,000 every month. Give him 1,000. Yeah. This degenerates into an oligarchy, and from the oligarchy, the next step is democracy. Democracy is the next step. So, monarchy degenerating into democracy, which further degenerates into oligarchy, and finally democracy, which, according to Plato, is nothing but the rule of the mob or uh, mobocracy. So let's try to understand this uh, what this cycle is. So monarchy is some kind of enlightened rule. Um, it is good because there is somebody who is able to think of the good of his own people, and that person is ruling. So monarchy is all right, but democracy is a degenerated form of that because the ruler the ruler in a democratic system is corrupted by power. Okay, the ruler basically, it is still a monarchy, which means only one person's rule. Okay, that's what a monarchy is. And I have told you an arch, okay, an arch uh, is essentially a symbol of power. Monarchy, one arch. So that is what you need to understand, that there's only one arch of power. That's why it's called monarchy. The key is because you don't have the ch sound in the Greek language. I told this to you with reference to we say arch enemy, we say archbishop, but when we talk about archangels, we don't call them archangels, we call them archangels. The reason why we call them archangels is because early Christianity derived a number of words from Greek, from the Attic Greek, Attic, Attic. It's not the Attic on the. That's not the Attic. Attica is the province of which even Athens was a part. So that is considered to be the best form of Greek. And for some strange reason, their Christianity decided to also use Greek words, perhaps to circumvent the usage of Latin, because the Romans were their enemies for a long time. So maybe it's that reason. So you will find that they took the this thing of the arch was actually written ark, A-R-K. That is how it was written and pronounced by the Greeks. So they became archangels. But when it by the time the archbishop and arch enemies came, the ch has sound has been softened. Okay, so that's how the archy monarchy, though it refers to an arch, it should have been pronounced monarchy, but because of its Greek roots, it is monarchy. Uh, then, so like I said, it is a perversion, a degeneration of monarchy, that is democracy. And democracy is where the ruler enjoys the power that he has over his subjects. Okay. And in doing so, his rule becomes misrule. Okay. Because he's no longer ruling judiciously, he's ruling completely intoxicated by power. And when such a thing happens, a group of people, a group of people will basically come up, and there'll be some kind of a rebellion, call it whatever you want, uh, and they depose the Democrat, uh, and they take over the ruling of the police. So that is the oligarchy, a group of people
Uh,
whose yeah.
Sir, what is the difference between monarchy and democracy? Because monarchy is also having power, right? A single
Mhm.
ruler will exercise much of power.
But
So,
that is a judicious use of power for the good of the citizens.
okay,
Whereas democracy is an arbitrary use of power, like it's like being drunk with power, and so you think you can do anything. So it is injudicious. That
okay,
is the difference.
okay,
Okay, an unenlightened kind of rule is monarchy, an unenlightened rule is a democracy.
right.
Yeah, is that okay?
Yes, yes,
Okay, so oligarchy. Now, for Plato, oligarchy is not going to be better than the democracy, because he sees oligarchy is a result of a number of uh, people who themselves do not have the strength of character. They have come to rule, and in doing so, what they have done is that they have further uh, taken the police in a downward movement. So the governance in the police becomes even worse than what it was in a democracy. Okay, the rule of the oligarchs or the oligarchy, which is a group of people. Okay, and Plato doesn't really make any attempt to say how are these people, uh, who are these people, except that they are citizens. Okay, non-citizens is not the thing there. It is the citizens, but these are not particularly. And Plato didn't believe that all citizens are enlightened citizens. And he says these are the unenlightened citizens. Uh, so they don't really know what is good for the police, so to speak. So that is therefore the next level of degeneration. And since these people are not in a position to rule with any kind of, they're not in a position to rule with any kind of, what should I say, uh, any kind of wisdom, uh, soon they are replaced by the mob. Okay, everybody decides that we will take over, but in Plato it is still citizens only, the really bad ones who take over from the oligarchs. Okay, and they set up a democracy, and once they do that, even the non-citizens join them, and that becomes a free for all, and therefore he calls it the rule of the mob, which according to him is no rule at all. So that is the degenerative cycle, okay, or the cook laws, cook law, which Plato has given to us. Now there's a bit of controversy here. Some people believe that this typology was not created by Plato, but it was created by uh, the pronunciation of that name is Lycurgus. Okay, Lycurgus, that is how it is pronounced. And Lycurgus was uh, a leader of the Spartans. And some people say that he was actually the, uh, he was there during the a contemporary of Pericles of Athens, and that uh, he was the one who talked about the framing of laws in Sparta, all that I told you about Sparta, there being austere, not seeking comforts, and all that. And people believe that Lycurgus had a great deal of influence on Plato, because when you look at a system of education, uh, we do see we do see that Plato is talking about um, Plato is talking about the importance of physical fitness, the importance of being austere. So it is quite possible that uh, Lycurgus did influence Plato. It's not out of the realm of the possible or the probable. Okay, he is not Lycurgus, which is what our good American friends say. Anyway, so now the thing is, if you look at this typology, which may have come from Lycurgus to Plato, or may have come in some other form, but expressed in this form by Plato. So we don't really have proof that this is an exact replication by Plato of what was suggested by Lycurgus. So if you're looking at this, then you have monarchy, you have democracy, you have oligarchy and democracy. Now, there are some horrible interpretations that I have seen on the net, because when the challenges for these questions came, people actually say that there's no monarchy, there is an aristocracy. And the aristocracy, some people say, has been is the rule of the philosopher king, who's the aristocrat. Okay, that is not true. Not true at all. Okay, there is no such thing in Plato, that there is an aristocrat who is the philosopher king, and then it goes into this degenerative cycle. No. In fact, the whole of the Republic, time for me to introduce you to another Greek word, which is this. Well, the Americans will ask us to say Politeia. No, it is Politeia. Politeia. Actually, there's a greater emphasis on the tia. It's tia. Politeia. That's how it is to be pronounced. And Politeia has been interpreted in several ways by several people. Some people say it is citizens. Some people say that it basically means a constitution. Please don't use that word constitution. There were no constitutions. There were rules, yes. And in some instances, they might even have written down the rules of conduct, the poetics of conduct, uh, or the rules of conduct, if you want. But constitutions, no. There were no constitutions at that particular time. And in fact, quite a few people call Lycurgus, uh, the lawgiver. He's called a lawgiver, and another person whom I really didn't know where to fit into this scheme of things, who was a very important person, nevertheless, Solon, Solon. Solon was somebody who is again called a lawgiver. I don't know where this expression lawgiver has come from, because it is also used against, not against, to describe Manu. Okay, the Manu is not a proper noun. It's not a name of a person. And quite a few people will tell you that it is uh, a lawgiver. There's no such thing as a lawgiver. Okay, nobody gives laws. So Lycurgus is actually called a lawgiver, but I doubt very much. He might have been instrumental in understanding the. He might have been instrumental in framing of some rules of conduct, but that's about it. It's not a constitution, nor is he a lawgiver. We don't really talk about laws in the Greek period. It's all rules of living. Now, politeia is something that has to be understood as uh, a certain form of living by citizens. Okay, it's not a constitution. It is not a person. Politeia is the rules by which citizens live. And these rules are actually those which govern the lives of all the people, though it is the citizens who are in charge of implementing them. Now, monarchy or aristocracy, there being a philosopher king's thing, and it's going through a degenerative cycle, is completely wrong, simply because of the fact that what Plato is trying to do with his ideal republic is to stop that cycle, is to stop the cycle through the completely enlightened rule of the philosopher king group, the class of, or rather the segment, the philosopher king segment of society. He's trying to stop this degenerative cycle. Okay, so that is what you need to understand first and foremost. Now, if there is a philosopher king kind of a thing, then why is it that his book, why is it that his book is called Republic? Because Republic is more of ruled by the people themselves. Well, that is because of the fact that he had actually written a book called Politeia. Politeia. That was actually the title of the Republic. But the Latin scholars translated it into Res Publica. That is how they translated it. Okay, they translated Politeia, Politeia to Res Publica, which is not a very accurate translation, which is all about people. And it is from this Latin translation of that that we have the English uh, version, which says it is a republic or the republic. Okay, res publica basically means the ruling of the people. Okay, where there is no monarchical structure, there isn't an emperor or a king, or so. Please remember that before Julius Caesar, even Rome was called res publica. Okay, in Latin, usually the S is pronounced. It's not like in French where you would say this is re publica. Okay, uh, so it is res publica. So the title apparently given by Plato is Politeia. Politeia, which is something that shares how many I have left. It shares things. Republic where people are sharing power. Politeia is where he's talking about the rule of the philosopher king. Okay, or the philosopher king segment. So there is a difference. So this particular difference has done a little bit of injustice to Plato because he didn't have a republic of any sort in his mind. He didn't have a republic of any sort in his mind. Uh, but, well, that is how languages are. And we have to work with the limitations of language. And to show you how things, yes, ma'am.
Sir, Politia literally means ruling by people, a group of people, and not a
Mm,
single person.
it doesn't necessarily mean ruling by a group of people. It just means rule of citizens. It
Okay.
means rule of citizens. But in Plato's case, he had even whittled the citizens down to that select few. It is a meritocracy that he created. Please remember that. It is because of that education system that you have this segmentation into the abdomen, the thorax, and the head. The head is the thinkers, and therefore the philosophers, and they will rule like kings. Now, I'm not even sure what is the actual word he used for the philosopher king. It might not have been king. I don't know. I have been trying to find, but not knowing the Greek alphabet is a very, very big handicap in searching for actual meanings. But I'm trying to overcome that in whatever ways I can. But Politeia is something which is the rule of the people, not of the people, sorry, of the citizens. So when he talked about it, it is the rule of those citizens who comprise of this particular segment called the philosopher king. Now, again, another thing that I want you to remember is that Plato is way, way ahead of his times. So he's not looking at non-citizens, he's not looking at slaves, he's not looking at women not being a part of the ruling structure. All right, so in the Politeia, everybody is a citizen. Everybody is a citizen. It's just that you're carrying out different kinds of responsibilities based in your ability that has been tested through a system of education and examination, right? So
Right. Yes.
you're creating that. So there is no, you don't see anywhere in the Republic, you don't see him talking about non-citizens. There are no slaves. There are no non-citizens. Everybody living in the Republic has a part to play. And if you look at that in the his system of justice, when he's talking about a mathematical uh, symmetry, is he leaving anyone out of it? He's
No.
not leaving anyone out of it. Everyone is included in it. So it is therefore not a by a group of people. That is what an oligarchy is. Ruled
Mhm.
by a group of people is an oligarchy, not politia. Even when you look at it in Aristotle, which we will shortly, you will find that Aristotle also doesn't use it as a group of people. But we'll come to that. But we'll
Yes.
come to that in a minute.
Yes.
So now that she's asked this question, let me also clarify. When you say res publica, republic, uh, this existed in ancient Rome prior to uh, the what should we say, to the rise of Julius Caesar. Uh, and I emphasize again, his name was Julius Caesar. Caesar is not the title that we think it is. The ruler is not called Caesar. Okay. Uh, just because Julius Caesar became the first ruler who was an emperor, people later on, like Augustus Caesar, they started using his name. They took the Caesar part of it and started adding to it. And the Russians who wanted to be called Caesars called themselves Tsars, Czars. Please don't use DSARs. Okay, that's archaic English, uh, which is not really the correct spelling. It should be CZ. Uh, but there is a reason why people use the TSAR to show the Tsar rather than CZAR. That is because in Slavic languages, or languages used by the Slavs, okay, who are all people from Yugoslavia, the Serbs, and all these people. The, you see, CZ will get pronounced as ch, which is there in Czechoslovakia. CZ is ch sound. So the reason why people wrote TS is because they didn't want us to get confused with the Slavic pronunciation of ch. Then it would have become chars. Okay. And anyway, it's the Americans who started making the distinction between S and Z. But if you look at the English language, in more instances than not, you will find that the S is pronounced like you would pronounce the Z, which is the Z sound and not the S sound. Okay, uh, so it is reservation, RES, observation, OBS, but the American idiots will say when you write it organize as ORGANISE, there they want to put a Z. Why don't you write a reservation also with a Z then? Hmm? Why? And we are told that Americans will pronounce the I as I. So it's not anti, it's anti. Okay. So Iraq is Iraq, Iran is Iran. Okay. Then pray tell me, why do you call missiles missiles? That is only because they want to reverse everything that the British did. They want to reverse that, and that is one way of establishing power. It is one way of establishing power by making people use their spelling, their kind of, what kind of a sentence is, where are you at? That is not even grammatically correct. And they don't even complete sentences. A gardener knocks on the door of whosever house, garden that he's tending to, and says, I have watered. And he'll go, you have watered what? You have watered what? So there are so many of these instances. Just changing the language in order to establish your power. So English is the global language. It is the most powerful language because that is the one that links all the people in the world. But the Americans want to make sure that it is their iteration of English that people should use and not the British English. And I'm glad that we Indians, we use our own English. We don't need to feel embarrassed about ourselves. We don't need to speak either the British English or uh, the American English. It's a good thing that Microsoft has understood that if you want to sell your software in India, then you also include what is called Indian English. Okay, so that is the good thing about capitalism. It does level people down. And since there are more buyers of Microsoft's uh, proprietary software, uh, they will use Indian English. So let's use Indian English. Somebody was laughing and saying, ha ha ha, SP Balasubramaniam says orchestra. So let him. What's your problem? It is written CH. Man, that's not orchestra, it's orchestra. I said, okay. So how's your guest? What do you mean my guest? CH is ka, right? So how are you feeling? How is your chest? I'll call the chest chest then. So if you can use CH as chest, Why not use it as orchestra? So I have no problem. I had no problem with S.P. Balasubramaniam repeatedly calling an orchestra orchestra. I have no problem with that. Why? There's such a stupid language. Use it stupidly or in whichever way you want. Anyway, sorry, that's a long detour. My apologies for that. So let me also give you another example since we have talked about Aristotle. What is wrong with me? Anyone ever heard of this? Hmm?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
What is it?
Civil society. Civil society.
Where is society in that?
Yes,
Which
said sir.
which word is society in that? Who said?
You.
Hmm, I did. But I didn't say Kinonia Politicae was civil society. I didn't say that.
It was first translated into Roman,
Yeah,
then into English.
it was translated into Latin. The Latin people didn't have a polis. Please remember that. The polis is a certain form of organization which didn't exist in Rome. All right, it didn't exist in Rome. So, what did they translate this into?
Societas Civilis.
No, no. They translated into Sociedad Civilis, which got translated into English as civil society. Okay. Whereas Canonia Politicae basically is a political community. It's a political community. If you literally translate it into English, that's the closest you can get to it. A political community. But since they didn't have a police, they didn't have anything political at that time. So it became, uh, it was translated into uh, the Latin language by the Romans as Societidad. Or did I get that right? I'm not very sure. The Society, or is it Societas Civil? I've forgotten that. Let's keep a rain check on this.
Societas civilis. Roman. In Roman.
Yeah, correct. You're right. There's another word where Sociedad. Societas. It's not Societas. It is Societas in German. Societas Civilis. That is what it is. Uh, why did they do it like that? They did that because people are supposed to live a civil life in a political community. Uh, that is an interpretation. What exactly do we mean by a civil life, which is being polite to one another, living in a happy, commodious manner? That is what Aristotle had in mind when he talked about Kinonia Politicae. So the Romans didn't have the political. We have to thank John Locke and actually Machiavelli first, and later on John Locke for popularizing this particular term, political. Okay, but let's go on. So the original title was Politeia, and that for him was the best rule, and that was supposed to stop this degenerative cycle, this degenerative cycle of monarchy becoming a democracy, that becoming an oligarchy and democracy. Now you have a typology again in Aristotle. Once again, that is uh, governance, not government, because still there are no institutions. So what is Aristotle saying here? Aristotle is talking about monarchy, which he says degenerates into a tyranny, and tyranny degenerates into I have been trying to look for these words, tyranny and aristocracy, the equivalents in Greek. Again, not knowing the Greek alphabet. See, Roman, you can, Latin, you can find out because the English alphabet is the Latin alphabet. So you can find out, but uh, I'm breaking my head trying to understand the Greek, and there's nobody who can teach Greek. That is the sad part. Anyway, so monarchy becomes a tyranny in the degenerative kuklo, or the degenerative cycle, and this in turn becomes oligarchy. Oligarchy, by the way, is a Greek term. It is a Greek term. Okay, it's not a translated term. It is actually a Greek term, oligarchy. And here, Aristotle inserts yet another. He calls it the polity, and the degenerated form of polity is democracy. So monarchy is to be found in Greek. Oligarchy is to be found in Greek. Polity is a Greek creation. Democracy is a Greek creation. I don't know what are the terms for aristocracy and tyranny. So I'll hopefully one day, sometime, I'll find out. I've been trying for a long time. Somebody told me that even aristocracy is actually a Greek term itself, but I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. It's an Latin term, as is tyranny. So I really am not able to find out the actual terms. And my apologies to you for that, for not being able to give you the appropriate Greek terms for those. Anyway, so this is also a degenerative cycle. Now, Aristotle also wants to stop the degenerative cycle. Just as Plato wanted to stop the degenerative cycle, Aristotle also wants to stop the degenerative cycle. So, what is it that he's proposing? He's also proposing sorry. Oh, it's getting worse. So, um, he also proposes the same term that Plato proposed. Please don't mind if I don't look at the screen. That's making it worse. So, he basically argues that Politeia is the best form of government. But his Politeia is completely different from Plato's Politeia. Okay, because uh, what Aristotle was trying to do was that he was trying to have an understanding of the nature of human beings, and he believed that the nature of human beings was such that if power was concentrated in one person or in a very small group of people, then it had a tendency to become intoxicating, and by becoming intoxicating, it had the effect of uh, basically it had the effect of corrupting people. So that is why uh, he believed that a monarchy degenerates into a tyranny when when monarch is drunk by power and becomes a tyrant and wants people to do everything at his bidding. Similarly, so when this happens in a group of enlightened citizens who are supposedly the aristocracy, they take over, but then they lose their enlightenment and they become an oligarchy, which is again not a very good thing. So that is when a bigger group of people will take over, and this group he called the Politeia, which got translated into Latin, uh, originally as Res Publica, but Aristotle himself didn't talk about Politeia as a form of uh, governance. He called it polity. So Politeia was made into a polity by Aristotle, and therefore the Romans didn't really go around translating that into uh, res publica. Okay, and because of his usage of politeia in conjunction with polity, and he called the activity of governance, by he I mean Aristotle, he called the activity of governance, he called it uh, politics. That's how the book got the name politics. Okay, so you therefore see that people have called him the father of politics. Technically, he really is not. It should be Plato. But given that the variations on Politeia have been uh, given by Aristotle as polity, politics, those you don't find in Plato. And that is why the translation Res Publica, which is a republic, an ancient republic, uh, but his Politeia is not really, it's a bad translation. The republic. He's not talking about a republic there at all. He's not talking about it there at all. Okay. So, what you have to understand, therefore, is that you have to lay at the complements for creating these terms: political, politics, polity, all of those which are derived out of the polis, even politia is derived out of the word polis, and therefore you have to definitely lay this thanks to Aristotle at his doorstep. He's the one who's given us this vocabulary that we continue to use today, after it was not used for a very long time, very long time, a few centuries it wasn't used. And then it came back into vogue thanks to Machiavelli, and later on mainly, again, a little bit of Hobbes also. I mean, a little bit of thanks should go to Hobbes, because Hobbes also talks about politics, and uh, then there is this thing called, uh, I mean, there is this man called John Locke, and Locke is somebody uh, who really made political and politics very popular, though I would still say the credit should go to Machiavelli first and foremost, uh, for reintroducing this term, uh, and in a completely different way from the way it was used in ancient Greece, completely different way. Because if you look at Politeia, it is an ethical term as well. It has a great deal of ethics built into it. And if you remember, if you remember Plato, the whole idea that symmetry is, and I told you, moral and ethical in for the Greeks are the same terms, not in the modern period, not in the modern period, but in the Greek period they are the same. And what you find in uh, the Greek period is that there is a moral ethical component very strongly built into Politeia, and therefore it is also built into polity. And a polity is almost a moral community. Okay, it is almost a moral community. Not almost, it is a moral community. I'm sorry. Okay, so can we stop here today? I'm
Okay, sir.
no, if you have any points to raise, I'll answer them uh, to the best of my abilities at the moment. Uh, but I, this also brings nausea in the stomach. So if you raise points, I'll answer them. If you have questions, arguments about any of these.
No, sir, it's okay. We'll continue on Monday.
No, no, no. If you have, I can answer those. Because for the rest, I have to write on the, and that I can't do because I'm having a rotary vertigo, which means that your eyeball also is going. That's why you get the rotary effect. So I can't open my eyes. If it just is my ears and mouth, um, it's okay. But I can't write down the rest of the scheme of Aristotle. I can't do that. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. Not just about this, till anything that we have done so far, and all that.
No, sir, no question.
What is today's date?
12, sir.
12th.
Yeah.
On the 18th, you have this exam, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And
But
on the
haven't got the timetable.
no, it'll be. Usually, the timetable is the first day you have three exams, which will be paper one, paper two, and paper three. And on the second day, you'll have two exams, which will be paper 4 and paper 5. If I am not mistaken, political ideologies is paper 4, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's paper 4, political ideologies. I'm quite sure, almost sure.
No, sir, it's 5. 105A.
Oh, all right. So then that'll be the second exam on the second day. But since what am I saying? Western political thought, Western political thought is something which is um, the first paper. It'll be PS 101, I think, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
PSC, PSC 101. and that'll be on 18th, and I've been asked to give the question papers by 15th. So today's 12th, 13th. So, well, I'll give it to them on 16th. Uh, uh, I want to finish Aristotle and include that also, so that because I have they told you the model is now that MCQs.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was consulted if we should go for a true or false also.
Mhm.
I said no. There is I have a better. Um, you people were not the early MTV generation, were you? Uh, when MTV first came into being in the 1980s, it was a music channel, and I used to love MTV because they used to play a great deal of classic rock on it, and uh, and they used to have these, you know, uh, they used to have these ads. All right, and MTV was a very, very irreverent channel, and it used to show all kinds of awful things and say, MTV, we are not known for our good taste. And uh, one particular ad I remember, which MTV made, not an ad, the fillers. Uh, there were two that were very impressive. First, let me tell you the one that is not relevant to this. Uh, the one was this: there used to be an ad for Fair and Lovely, I think. And so there used to be this girl getting into a lift, girl meaning a young woman getting into a lift, and there is a little girl, uh, 12 years kind of age, and she sees dark circles under the eyes of the young woman, and she says, not matching, because everything else is matching, but the black circles under the eyes are not matching. So next day that woman puts that thing and comes, and girl says matching. Okay, so that was the Fair and Lovely ad. The spoof that MTV made on that was, there is this uh, girl or young woman who gets in, who's who's got a black face, and there are white circles under her eyes, or white patches under her eyes. And there's this girl saying, not matching. And the next day, back in the lift, she's put more black all over her face. Now matching? And the girl says, yes, matching. So that is a kind of irreverence. So, Kaun Banega Crorepati is the, you've seen that, right? You've seen Kaun Banega Crorepati. Amitabh Bachchan doing it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there was this ad, which is a spoof on that. Not an ad, an MTV thing, which is a spoof to make people enjoy themselves. So the answers that would be given is A something, B something, C something, and D is the right answer. That is the option, right answer.
Right.
And there is somebody asking helpline, you know, इसका क्या आंसर है यार? And the other fellow is saying, वही मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. And there's right answer written there. So we might as well have those kind of quizzes, exams, I thought.
Oh.
If you want to go into true, false, yes, no, what are we doing to the education system? Really. Anyway, sorry that this class ended like this. I'm very, very sorry about this, but it's bad. And with your permission, if you don't have any questions, we'll end.
Yes, sir, please.
Okay. Okay, then I'll
Okay.
see you on Monday at 9 o'clock.
Yes, sir. Bye, sir. Take care.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank, thank,
Thank you, sir.
thank you, Akshay.